You're listening to the Business Marketing Show, episode number 23. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com or on iTunes. Hi everyone, this is Ed Keay-Smith from the Business Marketing Show, here with my co-host Brendan Tully, and we'll be talking today about the shift in the online consumer marketplace and how people are reacting with websites and interacting with websites today. So welcome, Mr. Brendan. How are you, mate?
Hi Ed, how are you? You good?
I'm very, very good. There is a lot of strange things happening on the internet these days, but one of them, which is not very strange at all, is the fact that businesses and business owners are starting to get their head around what they should be doing on the internet. Finally, it's taken a while. You've been noticing the same as I have in a lot of cases. There are still some people I think haven't quite got this, but that the World Wide Web now is 20-odd-year-old. So people have been using it for a while.
25 years nearly.
Well,
1991, 92?
No, 93 actually. When the World Wide Web first launched with a browser in terms of Netscape.
Right. Well, I'm young, so
Yeah, well, so am I. So am I, but I started using a computer when I was 3 years old. So, by the time the internet came around, I was using it when I was in my diapers. So things have changed a lot. Things have advanced a lot more, but still there are some people out there in terms of who has a website for their business, then they either get this or they don't get it. So what is it that you're seeing now, Brendan, in terms of how people are setting up their sites, and are they aware of what they should be doing?
So times have changed, right? So I was in Perth last week, and I had a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions, and I felt like I was saying the same thing over and over again. So I was just thinking about it a lot this week, and there really has been, I think we've seen a real shift that's now kind of been crystallized in the way that consumers behave, or people in general behave, largely driven by smartphones. So, when we first started doing workshops, small business workshops in whenever it was, 2009, 2010, the real discussion was around, you need to be online, like you actually need a website, as part of your overall business marketing and sales strategy. I think that the time for that conversation is past. Like you either get it or you don't. Having a website is part of doing business today, whether it's just a single kind of business card style website or it's a, fully fleshed out thing.
Yeah.
But people have changed. Smartphones are now, commonplace. There's more smartphones than whatever feature phones, dumb phones, whatever they're called.
Dumb phones, yeah. Yeah, ones with just big dials on it and all they do is make a phone call or receive text messages, but nothing else.
Yeah, so both my parents have iPhones now. My brother and sister have iPhones, and people are walking, and we've talked about this on other episodes, but people are walking around with internet in their pocket, which has really changed the way they behave. And it's not just like young people or whatever, Generation X. I don't know what is it. Generation X, is that the bad generation or whatever?
Gen Y, you mean?
I don't know.
Gen Y is the I'm Gen X. I don't think you're Gen X. You're Gen Y.
Oh, really?
Pretty sure.
I yeah, I am quite young, so
Yeah.
I'm still in my early 20s, so
Yeah, tell yourself that.
But so the way people behave has changed, and I kind of feel like business owners, in many respects, particularly like traditional small business owners, still don't realize they need to be playing this game of catch up, or they need to be constantly on the ball and really ideally ahead of where the consumer behavior is. Otherwise, it's not good enough just to have a website now. That's effectively what I'm trying to say. Like 5 years ago, it was good enough to have a website. Today, that's no longer good enough. Just by having a website does not mean anything at all. So I guess there's 3 points that we wanted to cover today and just flesh that out. I guess it's, from my perspective, a bit of a rehash of the conversation I had 15 times over last week because, it's clearly there's a trend happening and there's definitely a shift that has happened that, business owners need to be aware of and take some action in relation to, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was giving a presentation last Friday, and there was about 140 people in the room. Most had some type of small business. I won't say where it was or who it was, just to but the majority of the people, and I was talking about cloud-based productivity apps, and also cloud-based apps really. And a lot of the people in the room weren't even using a lot of the really common things that we would just assume that they're using, things like Dropbox or Evernote or Skype, things like that we've talked about before. Probably less than 20%, 30% of the room would put their hand up when I asked about these different types of cloud-based apps. So they all had websites. When I asked who has a website, pretty much every single hand in the room went up. So you're dead right there. They all realised, oh, gee, we've got to have a website. No kidding. And that was, you had to have a website 10 years ago in my world. But they're still not using a lot of the tools and services that will make their website more user-friendly for the visitor or more user-friendly to them and their staff. So we still have to now go down that path of getting people to make all these improvements to their functions.
Yeah. So I think that's really the first point. We need to acknowledge that consumers have changed. So people have changed in the way they behave, in the way they act. They've got internet in their pocket. Even I know myself, and it sounds really bad. I guess it is in one way. Like I was in the airport recently and wanted a book for the plane, and I went into a bookstore and had a look at all the books, and then I bought the book I want on my telephone, on my Kindle. I'm like, I don't want the real book. I just, it's, that to me, after I sat down on the plane, I'm like, wow, that's, I was not even conscious of what I was doing. I just saw the book I wanted, turned on my phone, went to Amazon, hit the buy button, and there I had the book on my telephone and had it on my iPad. So, it's even, I notice in myself the way I behave has changed, and people, the general public, are happy to pick up telephone, do price comparison while they're standing in a shop, and even purchase stuff while standing in a physical shop via their phone over the web. So,
yeah, absolutely. So it's one of those things that I think physical retail stores have to be aware of, that this is the trend, and have something to still, if people are going to buy something online and they're in their store, make it as appealing as possible. So they're still buying it from them, but give them the options of how they can do it and what they can do. And I do the same. I mean, I don't buy physical books anymore. There are a lot of people who choose still to have that tactile feel of a physical book. But to me, when I can carry 100 odd 200 books on my Kindle and read what I feel like reading at any time, and I don't have to carry them all around in a backpack or a suitcase, it's a no-brainer, really. Yep. So these are the types of things we're talking about. People's way of doing things has changed dramatically, and it's a bit like the boiling frog story. If you chuck a frog in a pot of boiling water, it's going to leap out straight away. But if you put it in a pot of cold water and then slowly start to boil it, then it's not going to jump out. That's if it's a stupid frog, I suppose. But did you like that analogy? But that's what's happened with smartphones. You look at over the 4 or 5 years and how the internet everyone has adapted. And now if you were to go and say to someone, right, there's going to be no more smartphones tomorrow, all the apps you've been using will be gone. You won't be able to connect to the internet from your smart device anymore. You'll be back to how it was 20 years ago. I think there'd be mass suicides. I think there'd be people going, oh my God, because they're so dependent on now the way that they use these tools and devices to go about their everyday. It's embedded into our psyche of how we live. So you have to embed your business practices into the same sort of format. So otherwise you're going to get left behind. Yeah.
So I think, I don't know if there's really an action point apart from accept that consumer behavior has changed, and the way that you do business, it's not going to be the same as it was. It'll never be the same ever again. The sooner you accept that as a business owner, the sooner you can, start moving forward. You're not fighting against the trend, you're moving with the trend.
Excellent. Yeah, and just maybe do a survey. Do a simple thing. Ask your customers what they want and expect from you and how they want to consume your service, your business, whatever it is you do. And if you're not offering that to them at the moment, then you need to.
Yeah. Okay, so next point. The next point is that this idea of focusing on keywords as a marketing strategy, or I want to rank for this particular keyword, or anything to do with keywords, the approach is old and it is very limited. And if that's the way that you're approaching your online marketing strategy, then you're effectively trying to drive uphill with the handbrake on. So what we've been doing, and I've only really become aware that we've changed the way, like how much we've changed the way we deal with clients in relation to this in the last kind of couple of months, but really changing the focus away from keywords, away from SEO, away from AdWords and traffic generation, and first starting with, let's focus on what you want to sell first, prioritize that, and let's build a strategy around that. So at the base level, the exercise we have clients do is it's like a 10-minute exercise, 15-minute exercise. Sit down, actually write out on paper, pen and paper, not on a computer, because there's something that goes on in your brain when you write things down. But write out all the products and services that you sell. Just brain dump it onto a page. And once you've done that, turn the page over and then rank them in order of priority in which you want to focus on the most popular first, or the highest margin first, or the one that you want to promote first, and then order that list. Then from there, we put that into a spreadsheet, and we have a bunch of columns of best practices and things we need to do to make those things happen. So we've already talked about on other episodes that at the most fundamental level, if you want to sell product X, you need to have a page of content or a page on the website dedicated to product X with photos, description, all that sort of stuff like that. At the most basic level, that's what you need to do. And we still have customers today who fight us on it, that it takes months and months and months for that.
Yeah.
Until I have that list, it might be 15 minutes, 30-minute exercise. Until I have that list, I find it very, very hard to build a strong, robust online marketing strategy that really works well, because at that core level, like a lot of businesses are just simply missing pages about those products. So just by adding those pages in, you could double the inquiry rate for whatever that product or service is. So
dead straight. I had that exact thing happen literally today, and with as you work with, it was a dental client. So and one of the things they're promoting is wisdom teeth removal, and they didn't have a page on wisdom teeth removal. It was like, hello. So, and it's much harder. I mean, there was some basic stuff on another page that had other information about other things they did, but it didn't have a specific page. So it's better for AdWords, it's better for SEO, it's better for the client. So, or the customer, the visitor. So too true. Very good.
Yep. So really it is about stop thinking about keywords and Google and ranking number one, switch it up, and work out what you're selling first and what you want to focus on, what you want to prioritize on. Because we can do everything, but you're going to have to have the budget to do it, and the time and the resources. And the reality is, I know you know it too, that when you work with clients, it's not our end that is, generally speaking, it's not our end that's the limitation. It's the client end. You're waiting for something to get approved or written or checked or
all the time
information. So the bottleneck will almost always be the business or the business owner, and not whoever's doing the managing the online marketing side of things.
Yeah, typically we find that to be the case. So it's, I think, because business owners have got their head in what they're doing so much, they're not really aware of what's going on around them and outside, and their way is the only way. But their way is keeping them down and suppressed, and not dealing with the competition that's eating their lunch. So
so that's point number 2. So keyword approach is old school. It really is about, let's focus on products and services. It's more of a more broad sales and marketing approach, you could put it that way.
I mean, look, every little thing we talk about in terms of a tool. Now, AdWords is a tool, SEO is a tool. They're all tools that get traffic, and those particular areas are focused on keywords. So we're not saying don't use keywords anymore, or people aren't using keywords anymore, because that's that's not true. That's only getting more and more from my experience. But the thing is, don't get so focused on just that one particular area. If you have a polished product and a well laid out site, then all those other things are just roads leading to it. That's all they are. So
Yeah. I guess like don't start with a focus on keywords. I see so many people focused on let's be number one for this keyword, and it's like, well, none of that matters. It's all about selling products and services, right? Like that's where your
yeah,
focus is. That should be the measure isn't where you rank in Google. The measure is how is that the sales performing for that product or service. So okay, so point number 3, and this is a funny one, and I get so much pushback on it. And once the pushback stops and the client actually does what they're told to do, instead of it's almost like a disobedient child. Like they, in many cases, they just want to fight you, and I don't understand why. But the third point I have is new generation of online marketing is really all about taking the first step of the sales process, which usually happens outside the website, and taking that online, making that into a format that is online. And by doing that, you'll rank higher in Google, you'll get more traffic, customers will stick around the website longer, you'll get more inquiries, you'll make more sales. It's the next generation. The customers who are doing that, and different businesses, that means different things. So let me give you some examples. And the most basic example is I deal with a lot of small accommodation businesses, and these might be like a B&B, or it might be somewhere that has like 5 chalets, for example. And just by adding that online booking capability to the website, like real online booking capability that takes credit cards, not just a contact form, which is really, the major step in the sales process, a lot of those guys see double the number of bookings, or, they go from 60% occupancy to 90% occupancy for something so simple, for a piece of software that costs them $25 a month, and maybe they have to change their processes a little bit. But I have multiple clients in that kind of small accommodation space who have fought me for years. They're like, well, let's do more AdWords. I'm like, no. The next thing you need to do, the biggest win you possibly have, is get some sort of online booking and credit card taking capability on the website. It's really simple. Forget about it. You're already like you're ranking number 2 for the term. Yeah, we can get you one up, but that'll give you a little bit of a boost. But the real boost will be online bookings.
Yeah. So that I would classify that as a conversion step. Okay. So that they're already getting traffic, but it's not converting because of A, B, C, or D. Now, the A might be they don't have an online booking form. Now, who in this day and age as a consumer wants to have to do anything manually or phone someone up when they can just fill in a form, put in their credit card details, and book it? I mean, hello. You've really needed that for the last 10 years, in my view. But say the fact that there's so many cloud-based $20 a month solutions. It's ridiculous that it will take all the pain away. And particularly if you're using something like WordPress, it's typically just a bolt-on thing and a bit of setting up. And, that's something we can do or someone can do for you. Or you can do it yourself if you really want to. But
self-service is the big thing. And let's go back to point 1 where we said we have accepted consumer behavior has changed. So now consumer behavior, or people behave today differently. So, people are sitting in front of TV, let's say 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. They're sitting there watching a show. They've got an iPad or a smartphone next to them. The ads come on. They're on their phone. They see a web address. They're on their phone clicking around, or something triggers them. Like I had this conversation with one of my dental clients. People are sitting in front of the TV at 9 o'clock at night, and they realize that they meant to book a dental appointment. They've been thinking about it for 2 weeks. I need to go to the dentist. If you had online booking capability, so this dentist finally, we've been talking about this for a while as well, and similar sort of thing, he's finally pushed the button on it. That person doesn't want to wait till tomorrow to call you. They want to sit there and select the time and do it. They will spend the 3 minutes it takes to do that, and done. You've got the patient booking. The customer is happy as well because they've got that off their plate or off their mind. But that really comes back to point 1. Consumer behavior has changed. People want to book and buy online, self-service, do it all. It's 3 minutes to do it on your phone versus they have to wait the next day to call up. They have to remember, and it's a big piece of, I guess, mental processing capacity that has to sit in their brain versus they can just get it done, check it off the to-do list. And
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
good for everyone, right?
It is. And you and I were just talking before about, I was just saying I've just started back in doing martial arts training, something called Krav Maga, which is an Israeli self-defense thing that's been around since the 1930s. And I wanted to get back into doing some of that. And I was watching a movie that triggered this thought, and exactly what you just said. I watched the movie. They were using this in the Defense Forces in this particular movie, and I thought, I really got to get back into that. So anyway, hopped on the website, found a place locally that did the training. They had an online booking form for, book in for the free lesson, and booked in for my free lesson, and went to it. But that all happened as I was literally, as you said, sitting on the couch with my iPad, and I did it all in the matter of 10 minutes from the thought process being triggered. Now, if I'd had to leave a voicemail message, or it was only email based, or any of that sort of stuff, I may not have ended up there. So, and that's one example of millions of services that you can apply this to.
Yeah, I mean, it really is about people want to buy, right? Like, there's so much negative connotations or negative connotation attached to selling people stuff. But really, at the core level, it's solving people's problems. People want to buy from you. If the solution works, there's no reason why you shouldn't be wanting to sell it. So by having this online booking capability, online whatever it is, you're pulling out the friction points. So, the path to them buying is easier, the path for you selling is easier, so everybody's happy. It's a win-win scenario. So the goals are effectively aligned. So a third example of this, another practical example, so Didgeridoo Breath, online Didgeridoo store and physical real-world Didgeridoo store in Fremantle. It's one of my oldest consulting clients. So they work with Matt from Photography Project, and they got an online didgeridoo buyer's guide has 10 or 12 videos that explains to people who are looking to buy a didgeridoo all the different aspects, like the color, the length, the diameter, whatever the material it's made out of. They talk through all these different points as they would if you'd walked into the shop and were doing the same thing in person. So that's been up and live for 6 months or so, and the videos have 5,000. There's 10 videos, 12 videos, and they all have more than, sitting around the 5,000 plays mark. So you think about it, that's effectively, well, if there's 10 videos and they've had 5,000 plays each, that's, let's say 50,000 plays. That's 50,000 conversations that the staff didn't actually have to have, but they still had with the customer. That's, let's say, tens of thousands of customers that they've had that conversation with. Everybody's happy. So it's another example of taking that first step online. It doesn't necessarily have to be a book online or an order online button. It could be something as simple as a good quality buyer's guide. Like, they're professionally shot videos, and sure, it costs money, but think about that. If that's 50,000 conversations, if each one's 10 minutes long, you just do the napkin maths on that. It's already paid for itself like many times over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hourly staff cost or whatever. But, that's another example, taking that first step of the sales process online. People to buy a didgeridoo, particularly first-time buyers or people buying for their kids for Christmas, which is a great example, they don't know anything about didgeridoos. So they have this, the videos are 3 to 5 minutes each. They're very simple. They explain all these different basics about it, and it's perfect. Again, it's another win-win scenario. So, every
very
client
cool.
we have
Very
doing
cool.
this is seeing big wins across the board.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, because you build it once, and then it keeps on working. Unless it gets to a point where the video is out of date or not relevant anymore, and you take it down, then you're not using it. But if it's something that's going to remain valuable and viable for the next 2, 5, 10 years, then bloody hell, it's a no-brainer. So
absolutely.
You mentioned before the accommodation booking service. Can you mention what that is, or?
So quite a few using Little Hotelier.
Little Hotelier, okay.
But there's plenty around. But one thing, so I see a lot of people get these cloud services, and one thing with the implementation that's very important is, instead of when someone clicks a buy button and goes to a third-party website, that really should be embedded inside your own website as well. So that's one. It's not necessarily a mistake, but it's just a better way of doing it. So
of course, yeah. So they're not actually leaving your site, because it's never a good idea to have people leave your site. So if you can have it so that it's working still within the confines of your website, then the customer's not shocked or anything that they're leaving somewhere else. And also better for your marketing, because then once they've finished, if you can keep them within it, you can then do upsells or other promotions. So cool. But that's the sort of thing. I mean, just because there are all these inexpensive cloud systems out there, they're often low cost to join, but sometimes, or quite often, there's some sort of implementation that needs to be done within a site. So that's when you have to get someone that's maybe more technical than the average business owner has the capabilities of dealing with to do the job. So
I don't think the barrier is no longer cost. Like 5 or 10 years ago, there was a dollars barrier, but now the real barrier is being organized, and you are going to have to do some work and change your business processes to match this piece of software. So suddenly, if you have an online booking engine, yes, every morning you're going to have to get up and check the online bookings and make sure everything's sweet and the payments work and everything else. The work is not in the buying the software. The work is changing the processes to match that, whatever it is, new system or whatever.
Yeah. And let's face it, if people were complaining and saying they don't want to pay $20 a month or $50 a month for this tool that can save them dozens of hours of manual labor, then they shouldn't be in business, because they're kidding themselves. And that's the way the world is now. Mm-hmm. It's like saying I want to be a truck transport driver, but I don't want to buy a truck. Well, how are you going to do it? you got to have the tools. You got to use what's there. And there's plenty of them out there now. It's really quite amazing what you can get access to.
Yep.
So very good. Anything else to add for number 3, or we've
that's kind of it. Like, really just thinking about taking that first sales step online. One thing, like, so there's some important considerations to make. Not everyone's going to hit a buy button online. Different businesses obviously work differently. So. Mm-hmm. So I used to, when we worked with clients, we used to have a very simple approach. We used to kind of break clients down the middle, or split them into 2 groups: business to business, B2B clients, and then B2C clients or retail clients. So that worked well for a time, but things get more complex, and we evolve our approach now. So when we work with a client, we look at that B2B, B2C. We look at the dollar cost per sale. We look at the complexity of the sale. So if it's buying a car is certainly a more complex sale than, doing your online grocery shopping at Coles. And we look at the length of the sales cycle as well. We take all those things into account. So some businesses, the sales process works differently. It's more complex. It's a higher dollar amount. It's a longer sales cycle. So even with those businesses, even though you you're not necessarily able to have a buy online button, you can still do things like, or if you have to do proposals, for example, you can still do things like make a more generic version of the proposal. It might be 2 pages, 4 pages long, rather than 20 pages of scoping and pricing. Include a lot of the information that you would in a proposal. Make sure you're not giving away company secrets, and have that available for download. People enter their email address, and they can download that generic or more genericized, I don't know if that's a word, but version of that genericized version of that proposal. Because the other thing, again, coming back to our point 1, consumer behaviour has changed. A lot of people, particularly when it's a bigger dollar spend or more complex, there's more people involved in the buying process. So the person browsing a website might not necessarily be the ultimate decision maker, but giving them something like a PDF they can print out that's, it's a few pages long. It doesn't have to be 20 pages long. Something they can print out and have physically in their hands can often grease the wheels of that conversation they have to have with their boss or their spouse or their manager, whoever it is. So that's another, again, we're talking about taking, that's the same sort of concept. Take the first step of that sales process online. It's more generic, and yes, it's not a full proposal, but at least it's something. It's better than nothing. And all things being equal, if they're looking at you and 2 other competitors, if you're the only one that has this physical collateral they can print out to have that conversation, then you're going to be ahead of those other 2 competitors, and you're probably going to win, right?
That would certainly be logical to me. So awesome.
Cool.
All right. Well, we're at close to half an hour mark, so that's very cool. I think it'd be interesting to look back on this conversation in a couple of years and see how much more people have taken up this type of process and mindset or way of thinking for their businesses. So thank you, Brendan, for your time.
Thanks, Ed.
And thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll catch you at the next episode.
Sweet. See you next time.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye. You've been listening to The Business Marketing Show. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com or on iTunes.